Socrates could think. So that was...
Jesus of Nazareth was the same way, right? Never wrote anything.
I thought he was a carpenter.
Right, but in that situation, what they're doing is they're being motivated by what they see as a complete destruction of Gaza.
Right.
So it's a different situation, because if there was no attacks on Gaza and Gaza was its own, autonomous or completely separate state, and it wasn't controlled by Israel, and there was no conflict, I doubt they would have the same mindset. Like, the mindset is coming out of watching the destruction of Gaza. And so then, instead of saying, hey, we shouldn't just be bombing this city into oblivion and supporting this, instead they go all the way and support the ideology of the authoritarian rulers of this area, which is kind of kooky.
Dude, in Gaza, there was a lot of, I think it was experimental grounds for a lot of insane new warfare type of possibilities.
Well, a lot of it was traditional missiles, right?
Yeah, but there's a lot of we had a doctor one time podcasting, and he was saying that there were bullets that had gone down a child, just crazy,
shot down, from a drone that's above them.
Yes, something in the air. And he said that there were drones in the air all day. There's that Palantir company just keeping tabs on everything that was happening. And
Palantir's involved in Gaza?
Palantir was involved in Gaza, yeah.
For sure?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Joe suddenly remembers how to let a conversation breathe, as long as the guy saying it has professor voice and a haircut. Yeah, Joe, real mature of you, playing along like the good Shabbos goy you are. Theo says Israel and Gaza, and Joe turns into a nervous guidance counselor, with bad breath and boomer resolutions. Gad says Israel's influence matters, and Joe's like, yes, let's explore. So the problem was never the topic. The problem was Theo made Joe look like a coward in real time. Does Joe really think we are that stupid? That we do not see the influence from Israel on our politics? Does Joe really think the satanic pedophilic details that were releases in the Epstein files won't lead to revolution?
By the way, that also explains why people think, for example, that I defend Israel because I'm Jewish. There is an element to that. I mean, most of my family's in Israel. But it's really, I defend Israel because many of its values are congruent with those that we hold dear in the United States. So given the region of the Middle East, if I'm going to send my daughter or yours to some university to study, I would much rather for her to be in a society in Tel Aviv or Haifa than I would in many of the other places. So it's in that sense that I'm pro-Israel. So if you ask me to allocate 100 points to how much of my support of Israel is due to the fact that many of its foundational values are similar to those of the United States versus the fact that I'm Jewish and Israel is a Jewish state, I would say 80-20 for the latter, meaning that I am defending the civilizational values of Israel in a very, very difficult and belligerent neighborhood.
So as far as I know, ultra-Orthodox, which is not a Dragon Ball Z thing, as I thought initially. I thought it was like the final form of Orthodox. It's not. I think
I was hoping it was.
I know. Dude. But I think it's just that they don't fight in the IDF. They think the modern state of Israel, even though they live there, is a blasphemy against God, which if you want to be technical and follow the religion, it is. But I'm not telling you got to believe that. I'm just telling you that's what the fucking things, that's your own lore. But so they wanted to marginalize them, so they call them ultra-Orthodox. And then you got Chabad, who's like, hey, doesn't matter if you're Zionist or not. We're all Jews. Do you see the Intel PSYOP bridging the gap? And then you've got it's like an extension of, I don't know, the same way the Moonies are.
In this country, the concern with Judaism is the support of the Israeli military.
Right.
That's the concern. The concern is the amount of influence that it has on the United States government, how we got into the Iran war, why we give them so much influence over our military, over our decision-making, over our politicians. I mean, AIPAC famously promotes and supports a tremendous amount of politicians in the United States. That's the big fear, is that there's an inordinate amount of influence that Israel has over foreign policy, our decisions, and even our political structure in the country.
Right. Gad hits Joe with the Deluxe TED Talk version. of I defend Israel because values, and Joe just lets it glide by like he's hearing scripture. Like, what values are you talking about, Gad? Have you been smoking the hashish with your satanic boyfriends in your echo chambers? That's Joe now. If the propaganda shows up in a suit, he calls it nuance. If it shows up with emotion, like Theo rightfully had, he calls it mental illness. I would show you the uncensored videos that I looked at live leak from the SLAR in Gaza, but I do not want to be banned by commie JewTube. Israel isn't just a place in this conversation, it's the beta test for the kind of obedient, watched, militarized society every freaking power wants everywhere else too. Kurt sees it. Joe just pets the conversation until it falls asleep or needs to talk to his handler, like the good little Shabbos goy he is.
Say the Iran war. Take Israel out of it. Do you think there are multiple countries that would share in the recognition that probably an Iranian regime that has an eschatology that basically says the end of times requires that there is sort of death to everybody before the final imam comes back? Would it be a good idea for the Brits or the Romanians or the French or some of the other the Gulf countries, would they be happy if Iran had a nuclear weapon?
It's been permanent war. So fucking forgive me if I don't trust that the guy whose plan has been permanent militarism, permanent war. Look at Israel itself. Look at the nation of Israel. That is a permanent military state. Now, they may say it has to be that way because we're a tiny little state in the middle of this big Arab world, and maybe that's the case. But this is the perspective of somebody who has a permanent military state, permanent militarism, a mass surveillance state, always in a state of war. Everybody is drafted. Everybody must serve in the IDF. Well, I guess not the religious Jews, but everyone else, including women, including their girls, have to all go do training in the IDF.
Does Israel always do things perfectly? No. Do they have politicians that are corrupt? Yes. Have pedophiles who did bad things here tried to go there and have aliyah, meaning get residency there and run away from yes, but it could also be the case that a bank robber or a pedophile goes back to Thailand if there are no extradition mechanisms to bring them back to the United States.
I think House of Cards is probably really close to what the government's actually like. Go back and watch that show again.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey's an old school dick grabber, but damn, that motherfucker could act.
Yeah.
He could act.
Oh, yeah.
The writing on that show is fantastic. That show's so good. Up until the last season, he wasn't in it. Like, stop.
This is Joe at his most housebroken. Gad gives him the full existential threat used car sales pitch, and Joe just nods along like a Labrador hearing the treat bag open. History, trauma, survival, okay, great. Now do Gaza. The world is watching Joe, and God Almighty will not look kindly on those who refuse to do their part. Now do the dead kids. Now do the permanent security excuse for every horror show under the sun. But Joe never gets there. He just lets the pain be the argument. Very convenient.
In other words, it is undoubtedly true, probably, I don't have the empirical evidence, that probably the Jewish lobby does its job really well and effectively. But let's look at all of the other things that they also do well. They contribute, so for example...
Well, that's wonderful, but that doesn't take away from the influence that it has on our policies.
Yes.
On our political candidates, on, like, for instance, one of the reasons why Mamdani won in New York City is because when they had the mayoral debate, he was the only one that said he's not immediately going to go to Israel.
Right.
And a lot of people were shocked by that. They were like, why is everyone saying they're going to go to Israel when they win as the mayor in New York City? It didn't make any sense. And people were kind of just confused by it. New York City's a mess. It's got a lot of problems. And this one guy said, I think I can serve Jewish Americans better by staying here in New York City, and I'm not going to go to Israel. And everybody was like, thank God someone said that.
Right.
Because all the other candidates, it seemed, at least to me as an outsider, were being heavily influenced by the Jewish lobby.
Maybe, I really don't know.
Why else would they do that? They're not saying I'm going to go to England.
Right.
They're not saying I'm going to go to France. They're saying I'm going to go to Israel.
Right. I mean, is it surprising that if you have a group of people who have been historically persecuted the way that they have, By the way, I don't think.
But it's
that
running for mayor of
Right.
New York City, and they're saying, I'm going to go to Israel.
Fuck, that's what's scary too. You're like, there's just a drone out there
Mm-hmm.
waiting for you to say the wrong thing. And they put a bullet through you like some child in Gaza who's just trying to fucking find his other deceased brother in a fucking pile of rubble. And they're like, oh, that's a Hamas or whatever. You're like, that kid's fucking 2. He's trying to move a piece of a missile off of a fucking body.
Well, drone warfare in general is crazy.
I don't know,
We
man.
got to get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your fucking marbles.
You think I am?
Come hang out with us.
To say we sent text messages or we dropped leaflets or we did any of this, it's like, yeah, well, okay. So Israel does everything in their power not to kill innocent civilians. Yeah, except not killing them.
Dave Smith comes in and does in one sentence what Joe refused to let Theo do for an entire episode: cut the humanitarian cosplay to pieces. We warned them doesn't mean much when the civilians are still dead. That's the whole scam. You don't get absolution because you sent a text before dropping a bomb. Joe should have said this himself a month ago on the Theo podcast. Instead, he was busy pretending Theo needed vitamins and sunlight or antidepressants. Bro, if I even knew half the stuff that happened on Epstein's island, I too would need therapy. But here I am, still carrying the flame forward. Kurt makes it visual, which is exactly what Joe hates. Drone in the sky, dead kid in the rubble, brother digging through concrete. That's the part the geopolitics crowd can't stand, because once the image gets that clear, all the little smart guy words start sounding like what they are: deodorant for atrocity. Joe's whole trick is to keep things abstract. Kurt ruins that by making it human.
when I am spending my entire existence, to your point, possibly being eradicated tomorrow, I don't have the luxury to debate what constitutes male or female. It creates a laser focus about what's important in my life.
And everyone talked about it. And Oprah had people talking about satanic ritual abuse on her show. It was no big deal. But do you notice how now it's like you shouldn't even speak of such things? Right? So here's the thing I find very creepy. The Pizzagate shit. That Breitbart guy who I didn't know, I heard recordings.
Steve Bannon?
No, not that pizza. Not the guy who, let's face it, probably was involved in getting rid.
By the way, he hasn't said shit about any of this Epstein stuff. He's just fucking business as usual on his War Room
He's a
podcast.
dark magician. Dr. Heather Lear on my show told me to get this book, and I'm glad I did. It's by Teitelbaum. The guy's name's Teitelbaum. It's about Steve Bannon. And she got me to get it because she goes, it's not just typical shit lib like, but the right wing is bad. Because I don't want to hear from either fake wing about their complaints about the other fucking ass cheek. But this is worth it because the guy explained something I didn't understand, which is what traditionalism is.
We are under the rule of tyrants, and I'm not saying that's the U.S. government's tyrant, or I'm not no individual, but every government that is in control of military, that is involved in these exchanges with other countries, they're run by tyrants. Someone's a tyrant, whether it's Putin or this guy or that guy or whoever is in charge of Iran right
Joe
now.
loves this zone. Elite depravity, creepy symbolism, Pizzagate adjacent filth, all of that. Why? Because once it gets messy enough, he can act like none of it is followable. That's his trick. Use the craziest phrasing as an excuse to ignore the cleaner rot underneath it. He'll smirk at the flames so he never has to talk about the smoke. Classic Joe. Spooky vibes are fine. Straight lines to protected people are not. Kurt says the thing Joe never wants said too cleanly. Maybe people hate Israel because of what Israel is doing. Wild concept, I know. Maybe it's not ancient darkness or alien forces. Maybe it's the bombs. Maybe it's Gaza. The ritualistic slaughter of the innocents by the satanic and pedophilic Jewish cabal. Maybe it's months of people watching civilians get pulverized while every little regime gremlin on TV explains why that's actually very complicated. Joe never lets the sentence get this sharp unless the guest is willing to bleed for it.
Israel, he's there right now.
Have you been to Israel?
No.
Okay. You know what I suggest you
Doesn't
do?
seem like a good time to go. Seems like it's a little dangerous.
I mean, in that sense, yes. But go there and live out the vibe. Look, it's an incredibly gay-tolerant place, right? Tel Aviv, short of San Francisco, New York, Montreal, it's one of the most queer-friendly places. It's very bohemian. It's reggae music playing. Israelis are, in French, you say bon vivant, good livers.
But
right?
it's also Israeli society doesn't universally support the war either.
Exactly. But that speaks to the fact that there is a multiplicity
That
of
it's an open
realities. It's an
society.
open society, right?
Yeah.
Israel, in all of their years, and Israel's done some pretty wild, horrific shit. Israel has committed many massacres and atrocities, and they've committed mass ethnic cleansing campaigns, and they've had a brutal occupation going for almost 60 years now of the Palestinians, of the Gazans and the people in the West Bank. But to be very clear, Israel's never done anything like they did in Gaza in their history. This was the worst thing that Israel's ever done, by far. And, Joe Biden supported them through that, through the worst thing that they were doing. And now Donald Trump has out Zionist Joe Biden by 5-fold or something like that. And so, anyway, my point is just that Israel, while doing the worst things it's ever done, has had full support from the United States of America's government.
I've always known there to be Israeli animus in many places. For example, at my own university, which will be leaving shortly, Concordia has been colloquially referred to as Gaza University for 25 plus years. Benjamin Netanyahu in 2002 was not able to speak there. They shut him down and they canceled him. And this is when he was then a private citizen. Now, this is in 2002.
Joe loves this part because it gives him his favorite drug, procedural complexity. Look, there's debate. There are different views. It's a vibrant society. Cool. You can have parliament and still bomb the shit out of civilians. Having arguments in government does not magically resurrect a child under a building. Joe hears internal disagreement and instantly acts like morality has been solved by paperwork. Classic Joe, thinking that dialogue will save the say. No, Joe, we're past that now. All that will matter now is action.
Most people are de facto Satanist. You don't have to worship Satan to be a Satanist. In fact, if you have friends or somebody like my buddy Sam Talent. You ever see Sam Talent?
I think so.
Fucking funny, great writer, dude, Sam.
Show me him, Google him so I can see who.
Sam Talent's a fucking very smart dude, and he goes, he's from Colorado, and he goes, well, and the reason there's a lot of Satanists there, yeah. Sam, I love it, dude. But anyway, he goes, we were talking in the green room at Mothership. He goes, well, I know a lot of Satanists. They're pretty cool. You don't worship Satan. It's just like you worship yourself as a god. And I'm like, well, the world needs more of that.
Okay, even if you want to say, hey, we're this tiny little country in the Middle East and that's the way it's got to be. Okay, well, we're the United States of fucking America. And we're supposed to be a free country, not a permanent militarism country. And because of this plan, it's transformed my country into that. Maybe this and not ancient dark forces have something to do with why people aren't supporting Israel anymore.
This is why Joe's fake neutrality is such a joke now. Dave can say Israel's done horrific shit. Kurt can say it. But when Theo said it right to Joe's face, Joe immediately turned into a little emotional support animal for the narrative. That's the scam. Joe is only brave around criticism of Israel when he doesn't have to be the one making it land. That's the whole ending right there. Joe still wants the costume of a truth seeker, but every single time the conversation gets near Israel, oligarchs, surveillance, elite weirdness, or the actual architecture of power, he stops just short. Always. Kurt sounds crazier because he says too much. Joe sounds safer because he says too little. And somehow, in the end, the crazy guy keeps looking more honest than the one doing podcast Tai Chi around every dangerous conclusion.
I think most
War is
good
a unique
people-
term.
War's a fucking terrifying
But I mean,
thing.
I wouldn't call it he does war, but I
You
see what
mean
you're saying.
what they're doing right now
Yeah.
in Gaza?
Yeah, and
there's-
I'm not
the
jumping
one
on
in
you.
Iran is war. That's war. Iran's a real enemy. It's a different.
Are they enemy to America?
Well, what they are is the largest country in terms of state-sponsored terrorism. They're the largest sponsor of terrorism.
But Passy will explain to you their own commandments they have. Here's what they are secretly all about. Eugenics, huge one. So that's all these texts.
Satanists?
Oh, yes. When you hear about the satanic panic, have you heard that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, what is wow, it rhymes. I guess that's a thing.
Accident. Oops.
So, you ever look up how long the satanic panic lasted?
No.
30 years. That's a long panic, isn't it? That's longer than the Afghanic panic. What the fuck? So that's a rhyming Twilight language gibberish term for people to blather, and it rhymes.
Kurt starts tying it together. Drones, Palantir, Gaza, software, tyrants, and suddenly the room smells like the future Joe doesn't want to describe too plainly. Because once you connect war tech, surveillance, and dead civilians in one sentence, it stops being complicated and starts sounding like a business model. Joe likes conspiracy when it's a campfire story. He hates it when it starts looking like procurement.
Here's my favorite one that I told you, the stratospheric atmosphere. Was it? It's called Satan in England.
Yeah, that one. Search that one.
The geoengineering England, because, you know, to fight climate change, we're gonna
call it Satan. We're gonna dim the
You know how
atmosphere.
too much
and call it
sunlight
Satan.
gets to England?
Yeah, it's really bad.
That's
over
where
there.
we're getting all that climate change from. England's
A lot
too
of
sunny.
burns. A lot of burns. Causes fires.
These Boers swamp people are gonna be fucking, and then to call it Satan, are you just like?
Well, they're gonna
what a
make
fuck
Mordor.
you.
It's gonna literally look like Mordor. It's
Yo.
gonna be black skies and where does Sauron live?
It's gonna be like Highlander 2, where we learn not to do this.
Where does Sauron live?
Oh, Mordor.
Yeah, Mordor. Satan is the name of the tiny UK balloon experiment that released very small amount of sulfur dioxide. Literally, Satan smells like sulfur. Sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere over England as a proof of concept for solo geoengineering, not a large-scale ongoing weather modification program. It has nonetheless become a focus of online conspiracy claims
Oh, I wonder
about
how.
UK geoengineering and weather control.
The satanic panic point is actually sharper than Joe wants to admit, because the easiest trick in the world is to take every conversation about elite evil and collapse it into, haha, panic, crazy people seeing symbols. That way the pattern gets mocked before it gets examined. Joe loves that move. It lets him stay in the room, sound reasonable, and never say anything that would make the wrong class of rich freaks uncomfortable.
That's the problem. The problem is when everybody thinks that every fucking Southwest airline is spraying things to keep everybody docile. What you're the problem is that's easily disprovable. And what you do is you open the door for that allows them to do the real shit. So what you got to recognize
How do you
is
open the
what
door
a
with that?
regular plane is.
Wait, how do you open the door?
Because if you think that every fucking American Airlines flight overhead that's making artificial clouds is doing it because they're spraying things on you, that's easily disproven. And then that.
Well, I don't think everyone.
But hold on.
Yeah.
That makes all the other stuff seem silly too.
Right.
Because I think they probably are spraying some things with some planes. And there's real data that shows that they've tried that and practiced that.
A couple of questions I wrote for Jimmy Dore to ask Bannon when he was on. Okay, there's like two in particular that he asked. One was about the Doge of Venice. You know the Doge of Venice? Like that's the ruler of Venice for like 1,000 years was called the Doge.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and his second in command was called the Podesta. And anyway, Bannon would say how these tech oligarchs want to have Venetian city-states all around they don't. So where we're going, by the way, is they're crashing America on purpose. They've been trying to make it crash for a while now. The experiments, they call it the great experiment. Well, the experiment's over, motherfuckers, and they want to crash it because they want to bring in the Noahide techno state. So the techno state is going to be like you subscribe to your government like Hulu and shit. That's what they're.
Right.
This ain't secret shit.
Right,
it's a thing they say. Mm-hmm. They say this.
This is Kurt basically saying, all these systems are merging into one big control freak monstrosity. And Joe reacts like a man trying very hard to enjoy the trailer without admitting he lives in the movie. Kurt sounds like a less groomed Alex Jones here, sure, but at least he's still pointing upward. Joe, meanwhile, is just the calmer, thinner, more socially approved version of a guy who used to pretend he distrusted the machine.